this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we are going to be talking about Josh Hawley was confronting Mayorkas about DHS and an employee's egregious post online that was very pro-terrorist killing people. So I want to show that exchange, also a bit of exchange that Ben Shapiro had while he was at Oxford. And also I'm seeing a lot of commentary from, I guess, liberal Jews who are just shocked at the progressive left and how much a part of their coalition they are not a part of. They're finding out and I guess I laugh at the like ridiculous of people not knowing or not realizing, but it is sad, but it's a wake up call that some people are, I guess, allowing to happen and other people aren't allowing to happen. But warning signs have always been there. Um, this big left wing coalition of people that because you are an other, we can stand up against everything else. It has always been not good because the goal isn't really diversity is our strength. The goal is we want everybody to come together so we can destroy Western values, capitalism, etc., etc. So we're going to talk about a really viral response from a very famous Jewish actress who was on The Big Bang Theory and the TV show Blossom, and someone's response to her, because, well, I thought it was a great, very powerful response, but the initial video, but I think the response I'm going to show you guys is a really good point too, because kind of like, why didn't you wake up and see all these things going on? So before we jump into everything, I'm going to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs to stream, it costs to run my website, all that stuff. So if you guys can support in that way, I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you. You can check out different merch that I have at my website as well. Like this I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For shirt and other stuff as well. So go ahead and check it out. By the way, I posted this on Facebook and YouTube, but yesterday someone compared, I did a video that did, fairly decent, I guess, on TikTok. Didn't go like super viral. I think at one point they decided to choke it. About the Israel Gaza situation, and somebody's like, "Oh, so you're saying like Harriet Tubman couldn't fight for her freedom or something?" And I'm like, we are not about to compare Harriet Tubman. Like, she's not in any way like a Hamas fighter, and I just thought it was egregious. And they mentioned slavery feud again, and so many people want to relate like civil rights and other things like that people relate to, or feel so strongly about, because it's our roots and our heritage and etc. And they want to compare it to what's going on in the Middle East, but these things aren't the same. And I keep telling people, it doesn't matter how oppressed that I would be, I would not get to the point where I would want to commit any of the atrocities that happened on October 7th. And there's a there's a video going on around in, I guess you can find on Telegram or places where Hamas posted it, because they apparently filmed it on themselves, but they went into a house, and warning, this is pretty disturbing, went into a house, killed a man, beheaded him, and then they put the baby in the oven, and then they raped the mom. So pretty egregious stuff. While you can hear, I guess, the baby screaming and other stuff like that. That's how it's been described. I don't I've watched a lot of crazy things. I don't know if that's one thing people are saying it's verified, and people I know and follow have said that they've seen it, and I trust that they've seen it. I don't know if that's something I want to verify for myself. If I do, I'll let you know. But that's one I think I want to take for the team. Um, but anyway, there's no amount of oppression that can make me want to do something like that. So um, the nerve, the nerve of someone to compare that to Harriet freaking Tubman is just genuinely insane. Just genuinely insane. Um, this world's getting a little too crazy for me, guys. Anyway, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream and all that stuff. So I don't remember if I said that or not, but it's also well, I know a lot of people are going out trick or treating because it's the 31st. If you're looking for some, I don't know, spookier kind of things to do tonight, besides like getting candy or watching the kids get candy, etc. I do have lots of books that I have written, and one of well, I guess I do have this one. This is about a vampire princess. You guys can check out Anubis. It's pretty good. But I have other books as well. I have 17 in total, and one of the series, which I do not have I have to actually go to my website and show you guys because I don't have like a little thing about it. It's called Almost Alive, and it's about a girl who unalived herself, and she actually came back from the dead with something attached to her soul and trying to take her body. So every time she commits a sin, a demon like eats a piece of her soul, and once it's gone, it gets to like permanently live inside of her. So I have two books in that series that you guys can check out. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go to the website / talk to you guys at the same time so I can show you what the book is. So a little self promotion there if you guys want to check it out. I know some of you guys have checked out my stuff, so I appreciate you. But just give it another recommendation. So this is my website. So these are all my books that you guys can see here. So that's the series right here that I'm mentioning right now. So a little spooky. Let's go ahead and check it out. Almost Live Becoming Undone. There's a video that explains some more stuff about it. So go ahead, check it out. Let me know what you think. So anyway, let's get to the content of the day. So first thing I want to take note of is that well, let me first show you this video from Peter Ducey, who asked the Biden administration, the press secretary, um, why is Biden so quick to call right wing people, the MAGA people, those people extremists, but the administration isn't so quick to call people who are going out protesting on behalf of, Palestine, or even saying that they won't condemn Hamas and stuff, or doing acts like, barricading or crowding around Jewish students so they have to like barricade themselves in a library and all this stuff. Why aren't those people extremists? So I don't think she had a good answer. So I just want to show you guys this is the state of our politics and our leadership today. Sorry.
Thank you, Corinne. Does President Biden think the anti-Israel protesters in this country are extremists?
What I can say is what we've been very clear about this. When it comes to anti-Semitism, there's no place. We have to make sure that we speak against it very loud and be very clear about that. Remember, what the president decided to, when the president decided to run for president, is what he saw in Charlottesville in 2017, when he saw neo-Nazis marching down the streets of Charlottesville with vile anti-Semitic just hatred. And he was very clear then, and he's very clear now. He's taken actions against this over the past 2 years, and he's continued to be clear. There is no place for this type of vile and despite this kind of rhetoric.
And we hear you guys, though, talk about extremists all the time. It is usually about MAGA extremists. So what about these protesters who are making Jewish students feel unsafe on college campuses? Are they extremists?
I've been very, very clear. We are calling out any form of hate. Any form of hate. It is not acceptable. It should not be acceptable here. And we are going to continue to call that out. And let me be very clear. This is a president that has continued to have that fight in his office, in this administration. You know, when he repealed Trump's Muslim ban on his first day in office, that is something that this president did. He also established an inter-policy committee to counter Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and related forms of bias and discrimination. We have taken this very, very, very seriously, from the president all the way on down.
So, I love how there's all this like it's a script so that they repeated so much. Biden has repeated so much the Charlottesville. They looked in their eyes and they had the tiki tortures and Soul of America, etc. Blah blah blah. They've repeated it again and again and again. And bruh, why can't you just kind of answer his question? Like, if you can call MAGA people and the MAGA extremist MAGA people, they aren't described by Biden as people who go and have tiki torches and want to protect Robert E. Lee statues and run over people with cars or something. That is people who are just not willing to bow down to his opinions on abortion and other things like that. Like, they do not have a good, reasonable grasp on what is extreme as far as politics. Well, if they don't agree with you, then it's extreme. But they won't just say, hey, what these people are doing, ripping down these posters of these kidnapped babies and all this stuff is just extremism. Any violence or making all these Jewish kids feel unsafe, why is that not extremism? But if you want to protect life at conception, then that's that's extremism or whatever. Why? it's not really computing. And then she goes on to say, well, we repealed the Muslim ban. It wasn't a Muslim ban. So now you're trying to cover up, to dodge Ducey's question by spreading a lie. There were still countries, with Muslims that were able to come, but if they had, extreme security risks or whatever, yeah, they were banned. There was a travel ban there. So I don't know why you think invoking that after witnessing such a mass terrorist attack in Israel is going to be like, you know what, they're right. They made sure that they repealed people coming from dangerous parts of the world who may not have our best interest at heart. Like it's not hard. It's not hard, but they're really dealing with an issue because there's so many of their constituents who are ticked off because they are pro-Israel or they're standing by them in some regard or still want to send money, etc. And there's so many Democrats who are crazy, but there's a big chunk of them who are progressives who are like, we'll never forgive Biden for this, and we're not voting for him. And not just like progressive, like Muslims who or Arabs or whatever who would vote for Biden. It's a big chunk of their wing of their party who's very upset with them. Now, there's a lot of Democrats that I assume are older and a bit more grounded that are like, no, I don't condone a lot of these things, and Israel's been an ally for a long time, and yeah, they should be able to, make sure that they have the Iron Dome in tip top shape so the rockets from Gaza don't kill more of them. And um, there was a video on TikTok that Gen Z for Change posted, and they're complaining about the Republicans introducing a bill to stop people from immigrating, well, for refugees from coming from the Gaza area over here. And like Ron DeSantis has been very clear, like, nope, not going to happen. Nikki Haley was more like about it, but after she got blasted by DeSantis, she decided to be firm on it. Trump was firm on it. I have to look up other people like Vivek or whatever what they felt about it, but um I didn't post this reply yet, but I did film one last night, so it's in my drafts right now. But I just, was laughing at it because I went through the comments, and all the comments were like, good law, good law. So I don't know if that was just because an overwhelming opinion of people are like, no, we shouldn't. We're concerned about the security risks, and that if that was a bipartisan thing, or if maybe just one side of TikTok, the conservative side or whatever founder, the libertarian and whatever side found it and was just like, nah, we're good. Like, we're gonna, I don't know how libertarians would, I know they have a thing about, borders, but not all of them feel the same about it. So let's just say, I don't know if there was a sect of the internet that found that video and all these people started commenting and overwhelming all the other folks, but I can tell you that a lot of Democrats aren't too fond of a lot of like refugees coming in. I guess it would depend on from where. Like, I live in a Democrat area. Some years ago, they were talking about bringing some refugees in, and a Democrat, was for it, a politician, and man, the citizens of the city were like ready to run them out. They're like, you are not going to do this. We do not want that to happen. So you can be mad at Republicans all you want, but I'm telling you, it's not just a Republican issue. You will find that probably feel that way pretty strongly. So this issue is gonna I don't know, I think it will hurt them um quite a bit, because even though there's a big chunk of their base that are not totally insane, I guess, there's still a lot of enthusiastic voters who are just insane, and you want those people to obviously make phone calls and knock doors and do the grunt work that maybe older people are just kind of like, I'm tired. So what are you going to do? So I wouldn't say they're really walking a fine line. Like, the Biden administration still says some boneheaded things, or has some boneheaded ideals, even like with the situation going on. But I think for the most part, they're like, no, that's our ally, and we're going to stand beside them. They're still like pressuring Israel, or saying different things like, oh, maybe we should have a pause to do the domestic aid sort of thing. And Israel's been kind of like, if you can guarantee that whatever aid you give isn't just going to be going to the Hamas and them hoarding it, so they can be hauled up in their tunnels with food and fuel and all sorts of stuff. Like, the UN's like, we're running out of fuel, and the IDF actually trolled them and was just like, Hamas has all this fuel. Why don't you ask them for some? Like, they're hoarding it. Like, don't come for us when the people who started this mess, who neglected taking care of the citizens, has access to all this crap. On CNN, they were talking about the hostages and some of who were released, and all the stuff they had down there. And they're like, they had shampoo down there, and it was a really weird interview. Like, are you like kind of saying like, oh, they took such nice care of them, or are you just kind of marveling at all the stuff that they had? Because there wasn't the moral outrage of, oh, these terrorists have all these resources and supplies that other citizens above ground don't have. and they're obviously enriching themselves and taking care of themselves and have no interest in actually governing the population or helping them at all. So it would probably be for the best if Israel could just take them out, and that should be, what the people largely want. But that's not what the people who are, free Palestine, movement stuff. That's not what the folks on that side of the aisle are actually saying. Before I move on and show you some stuff from this exchange that Ben Shapiro had that kind of dives deeper into the free Palestine movement stuff, I want to show you something else. It's pretty disturbing from our own government here. So Josh Hawley was questioning Mayorkas about the DHS and a particular employee and some of the content that they had.
An employee of the Department of Homeland Security who posted these comments on October the 7th. That's not all she posted. She also posted this graphic. Now, this is a fake graphic, I want to be clear, but I think we understand it. This is a paraglider, a Hamas paraglider, depicted here with a machine gun flying into Israel. She posted it under her online alias with the celebratory Free Palestine. Mr. Secretary, what's going on here? Is this typical of people who work at DHS? This is an asylum and immigration officer who is posting these, frankly, pro-genocidal slogans and images on the day that Israelis are being slaughtered in their beds. What have you done about this?
4 things I'd like to say to you. Number one, your question to suggest that that is emblematic of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security is despicable.
I'm sorry, what have you done? This person works for the Department of Homeland Security. Have you fired her?
That was one of 4 answers.
Have you fired her?
One.
Have you fired her? Don't come to this hearing room when Israel has been invaded and Jewish students are barricaded in libraries in this country and cannot be escorted out because they are threatened for their lives. You have employees who are celebrating genocide, and you are saying it's despicable for me to ask the question?
Yeah, so I saw the RNC War Room had posted that, and someone under it was like, "Oh, come on, Josh," and they posted this other clip that I'm going to show you guys. And but spoiler alert, they don't mention that they fired the employee. They just, Mayorkas, does a whole righteous indignation thing, which he did in that clip. And you can't be all offended like, "Oh, is this indicative of the DHS?" Why don't you just say like what happened to that employee instead of like grandstanding? Like they, of course, like Republicans and Democrats both do this. There'll be somebody they're on the other side of the aisle, and so they come in a bit hostile at times to ask them questions and whatever. And and that's just the nature of these things. I'm not saying that it's right or whatever, but you could just answer the question and just explain to everybody how you discipline that employee and how they're no longer employed or whatever. Because if that person is still employed by DHS, that doesn't say that everyone a part of DHS has those particular, thoughts, inclinations, or whatever, but it does speak to the fact that perhaps you feel that that those sort of ideals are fine to have working at the Department of Homeland Security. And I would say that's pretty much not appropriate. So anyway, this is the clip that they posted, like I don't know, to be like, "Hey, you guys are dishonest, and how dare you even bring up all this stuff," because Mayorkas goes into his background, but that does not excuse what happened, and it doesn't answer the question.
I'd like to have a minute to respond. You were welcome to.
I would, and I'm not sure I'll limit it to 60 seconds.
That's fine.
Number one, what I found despicable is the implication that this language, tremendously odious, actually it could be emblematic of the sentiments of the 260,000 men and women of the Department of Homeland Security. Number one. Number two, Senator Hawley takes an adversarial approach to me in this question, and perhaps he doesn't know my own background. Perhaps he does not know that I am the child of a Holocaust survivor. Perhaps he does not know that my mother lost almost all her family at the hands of the Nazis. And so I find his adversarial tone to be entirely misplaced. I find it to be disrespectful of me and my heritage, and I do not expect an apology, but I did want to say what I just articulated. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just respond since he has referenced me personally?
Senator Hawley, we need to move on. Senator Romney, you're recognized for your questions.
That doesn't change the question and the legitimate concern that he has about it. And if anything, it should make people question, like, okay, with your background here and you're getting so offended, like how did you respond to this individual? Like you're so mad, more mad at the senator for asking you the question than the person for making the actual post, and then you having to sit before the Senate and have to explain it and be all embarrassed about it. So you should be way more upset at the actual employee, who I hope you fired, but probably didn't. And we hear that, even some stances that the Biden administration has been taking has been upsetting people within the government. Some people are quitting. Good riddance to you. But at the same time, they're sitting down and having, like, I don't know, struggle sessions with these folks and to hear them out and stuff, which you can do, but it's a job for the government, dude. Like, just you shouldn't have people who are pro terrorism at DHS. I think that's a reasonable thing. Like, maybe you guys can disagree, but anyway, I want to show this Ben Shapiro clip, and then we'll go into this back and forth with the two Jewish women and their perspectives on events. And Ben Shapiro, he talked about this today on his show, but this clip was going around social media, so I saw it today, and so I wanted to share it because he asked an important question, and I guess he asked a couple people that's answered at the tail end of this exchange. But the whole thing is pretty wild, though. So he went to Oxford, and these were the brilliant Q&A back and forth that he had with people.
And civilian casualties are a cost of war. That is just a reality of life. During World War II, there were 70,000 Brits who died during the Blitz bombing, and there were 2 million Germans who died, civilians who died during World War II. And I don't see a lot of monuments in Britain because of the 2 million civilians who died in Germany. The costs of war are brutal, they're terrible, they're horrifying. There's a vast difference in moral scope between deliberately going into a civilian area and murdering everyone you can find and trying to kill a terrorist who is deliberately hiding beneath a civilian area, hiding their rockets in civilian areas, starving their own people. And there is a vast difference. Okay, so now I can ask my question if you don't mind. So my question is, do you believe that there is a moral difference between Hamas going into, for example, Kfar Aza and murdering entire families, and Israel attempting to target terrorists and accidentally hitting civilians?
Israel is effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most densely populated region in the world. There are 15,000 people per square mile.
So does Hamas get immunity because they're there? So Hamas gets immunity. So
Israel has killed 3,500 children in the past
So just to be clear, your logic is that if you're a terrorist group located in a densely populated community, you hide behind civilians, you're never immune.
Where are the children meant to go?
So you're immune. Okay. That's why I was using the dimensions, but okay. Your logic is that you're a Hamas terrorist.
Sorry, since 2005, 23 out of every 24 conflict deaths have been Palestinian. I don't see any moral equivalency there. It's clearly unjust what the IDF has been doing to the Palestinians because there's a vast disparity between the number of Palestinians being killed and the number of Israelis.
I mean, I would certainly hope that Israel is going more. the numbers. More Germans died than Brits in World War II. Did that mean the British were wrong in World War II? Because they did. Many more Germans died than Brits. Based on the numbers, does that mean that Britain was wrong in World War II?
Britain wasn't bombing civilians.
You should talk to people in Dresden, but
So in case, I know this clip is kind of hard to hear what's going on a little bit, but they're going back and forth. Ben has pointed out that during World War II that you had a lot more Germans who died than Brits. Would that make it, because she's saying the numbers of of Palestinian death versus Israeli death, that makes it immoral what the Israelis are doing. And so he mentioned that there was more Germans who died than Brits in World War II. And so by her logic, does it make the Germans correct? And so she said, well, the Brits weren't bombing civilians. And so he brought up, people started laughing, and he brought up Dresden. It's just not historically accurate. I mean, we know that the US also did that too. So that logic doesn't quite track with the people talking about disproportionality response and stuff. It just doesn't track there. So she's very confident in what she's saying. She's very firm, and these are the kind of people that folks like rally around, because they're like, oh, they're so sure of what they're saying that they just assume that they are so correct in it. And she obviously said some things that weren't true and are, I think, morally not correct, but just factually, historically incorrect as well. So but we'll keep on watching.
This is not a just war. What Israel is doing is not a just war. There's a difference between fighting the Nazis.
So it's not a just war. It's not a just war when you fight a war against people who murder 1,500 of your civilians and take 233 of them in the last count captive into tunnels. It is not a just war to obliterate them. It's a just war.
Israel's been killing civilians for the past 75 years, and there was no headlines about it, and there was nobody said that the Palestinians were
Israel does
justified
not purposely kill civilians. Palestinian terrorists do. If Israel puts down its guns tomorrow, there will be a second Holocaust. If the Palestinians put down their guns tomorrow, there will be a Palestinian state. That is the reality. And let me ask you this. I'm just going to ask you the last question. The same question I asked her. Which part of Palestine is occupied?
The entirety of Palestine. But
I appreciate you expressing your full genocidal intent for the Jewish people living in the two.
So he asked her, well, if you didn't catch that, like where exactly are Palestinians being occupied? And so her answer was all of it. Her answer is all of it. So a lot of people are like in the occupation, and people keep repeating like, okay, well, Israel hasn't been in the Gaza Strip since like 2005. They not only left, made their citizens leave, and made them leave. They dug up their graveyards and all sorts of different stuff to get the people out of there. They left. And and people might say, oh, well, there's still like the security and blocking and all the other kind of stuff. And they do have like security around like the border there. They have a right to have security, put up a wall around their property, though. We know leftists here in the US think that walls are racist and mean. But the reason why they had to take such precautions with their security is because they elected Hamas, which is a terrorist organization who is committed to ending the Jews, and that's expressed in their charter. Their solution to the Palestinian conflict is jihad. You can't really blame them there. They got the Gaza area. There's it's on the water. Like they could have made it like an amazing port or something like that, but they didn't. They destroyed like the greenhouses. They dug up pipes for water for to make rockets, and they shoot the rockets nonstop. They take all this money that they've received in aid, and they've invested it in more terrorism and enriching their leaders while their people don't have stuff. So now their people don't have, food and water and all that kinds of different things, and they have it hoarded in the tunnels where all the terrorists are. And instead of people being like, yeah, we should really get rid of Hamas because they are unjustly ruling their people, because all they care about is death. They said we love death more than our enemies love life. That's their like motto. That's the thing that their leaders keep repeating. It's to me like, yeah, we should all focus on getting rid of them. People are like, oh, Israel's bad, let's have a ceasefire. None of this stuff is really computing, but she just flat out says that all of it is occupied. So when people say from the river to the sea, they mean all of it. They mean all of it. So they don't want Israel to exist. Now, do I think that everyone saying that slogan necessarily knows what a map looks like? I don't know. I don't know, but she's wise enough and bold enough to just plainly state what she means. And that's the state of things. That's the state of things. So I also want to note, because she was saying, oh, they're going after civilians. He's like, no, Israel. I saw a video today. It was like I guess a bit of a propaganda video. They're talking about war through the eyes of children, been played on his show, and so they're asking guys and children to explain what's going on. And even the children admitted that their uncle got a call from Israelis like, hey, we're coming to this area. So they got out and they left because they don't want to kill civilians. This is totally opposite of what happened on October the 7th. It's totally the opposite. So I want to play a bit of Secretary Blinken talking about some of the crazy stuff that happened. He tells a story about a family that was tortured. So people are not only killed, guys, they were tortured. And I started at the top of the hour talking about the story about the baby who was placed in the oven, the dead dad beheaded, the woman raped, and all that like captured on video, by Hamas and stuff, and people have seen it. I told you guys I don't know if I can that's one bullet I don't want to bite for you guys. But talking about some really evil, horrific stuff. So here's Secretary Blinken talking about some of this stuff.
Including, and if you'll forgive me, because again, these stories recede so quickly, a family at its breakfast table at one of the kibbutzes. And by the way, the profound irony of attacks on kibbutzes, the very people who most ardently believe and want a future of peace between Israelis and Palestinians, a future of two states. A family of four, a young boy and girl, 6 and 8 years old, and their parents around the breakfast table. The father, his eye gouged out in front of his kids. The mother's breast cut off. The girl's foot amputated. The boy's fingers cut off before they were executed. And then their executioners sat down and had a meal. That's what this society is dealing with. And no nation could tolerate that. And as we've said repeatedly, as President Biden has repeatedly made clear, Israel has not only the right, but the obligation to defend itself and to try to take every possible step to make sure this doesn't happen again. We've been equally clear that it is vitally important how Israel does this. And
he goes on to say that, they want to make sure that there's humanitarian stuff, etc. But I wanted him to explain some of those things. So this is next level crazy stuff, and it's alarming how twisted some people's minds are, the kind of content that is just prevalent on TikTok and places like that, the sort of comments that I get. Like I already told you guys about the crazy comment where someone was like, "Oh, you're gonna say Harriet Tubman and the slaves didn't have a right to fight for their freedom either." Who did things like that? Who did things like that? And then there was a video I did when I said like evil is evil. You can should just be able to come out and say it. And there's this Arab guy on there who's like, "Well, would you like to live in Gaza?" I'm like, "No, I wouldn't like to live under Gaza under Hamas, who uses me as a human shield. Why would I want to live under that?" I'm like, "Oh, well, if you don't want to live under it, think about how everyone else feels." And he said that he prays that I suffer the same things or something like that. Usually when I pray for people, I pray for their, I don't know, salvation, to find God, and I don't know, stuff like that. I don't pray for the worst sort of injustices, to be hurled upon people. But okay, I told this individual, like, no amount of oppression would make me want to behead people and shoot babies and all that stuff. But I guess we're just two different kinds of people. Two different kinds of people. You can have your heart hardened through life's struggles and whatnot, but you have to choose. You have to make the choice to do evil. And make no mistake, what happened on October the 7th was evil. And hiding amongst the people and hoarding stuff while they needed, and just being determined to wipe out Jews, it's evil continued. And some of these people running cover is just ridiculous. Cenk from the Young Turks had a crazy tweet. He's had some okay takes, but this tweet is kind of crazy, and I want to show. I wasn't gonna bother, but it's up, and so I'm gonna show it you guys. He said Hamas uses human shields in quotation marks, is the weakest, lamest, most overused talking point in history. Okay, even if that were true, is the answer to kill the human shields? I would never kill a human shield in a hostage situation. What kind of monster would? And so you can see this GIF that I posted down here, with OJ, if because he came out years later after he was in jail and stuff. Well, got acquitted or whatever, and came out with a book that was like, "If I Did It." And and yeah, it's not an if. It's really not an if. Everybody knows that they use their civilians as human shields, that they operate around schools and mosques and hospitals, that there's a particular hospital that they operate under, and it's not a secret. So he runs a news platform. So I'm concerned with this if business, because do you guys think it's disputed? It's not disputed, and it's strategic on their part. They do it on purpose because they want to make Israel look bad, and they want the international community to point to them and be like, "How dare you guys retaliate?" They're like the kid who, I don't know, will hit you, sucker punch you, whatever, and then hide behind, I don't know, mom's leg or something. Like you just wanted to be like, "Aha, I got you," and that's over. It's done. That's ridiculous. No one else, no other nation in the world would put up with that. Even if you did convince yourself that whatever Israel did warranted a response, I don't know how you could ever warp your mind to say what Hamas did, all the atrocities they committed, could somehow warrant the response that they gave. It's still warranted for Israel to retaliate to that response. It wouldn't make sense not to. Like you're saying, they had every right to do what they did, but you don't expect someone to hit back? That's That's crazy. It's crazy. I don't care what side you're on. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So anyway, let me show you guys this video from Mayim Bialik. I think that's how you say her name. But she's an actress who's on Blossom. I've seen her years on The Big Bang Theory. And she talked a bit about how she's not okay. So this is a long video, but I want to show you guys this video because it just sums up so many feelings of people observing the world right now. And she is a liberal Jew. She's afraid for her kids and all this stuff, and you'll hear her talk about it. But what I find very interesting about this whole situation, it must be very terrible to be a Jew anywhere right now. But particularly I think in the United States, seeing so much stuff go down, and you're like, this is supposed to be the land of the free and all this stuff. And if you're a liberal Jew and you've been on the sides of so many progressive um charges, like if you did so much progressive advocacy and other things like that, like promoting BLM and all that kind of different stuff, and you see how the world will come and coalesce around like Black people when there's some kind of incident or whatever, people like asking like, are you okay? And it's when something in the news happens, assuming that everyone has the same kind of, I don't know, emotional response, like everyone's out to get you, and because someone resisted and stole a taser and or something, and the police shot them, or there was what was that case with that girl who was she got a knife and she was going to stab someone, and the police shot her, and she's like in the midst of stabbing a girl, and people were so mad at the police for that. And I'm like, what else are they supposed to do? They're like, they should have pulled out a stun gun. It's like, there's no guarantee that would have worked then. Like, you guys, he literally saved someone's life, and they're mad that he shot the person who was stabbing the girl. But the people will still be like, oh, they'll be outraged, and then have such compassion for the Black community as a whole. Like when Trayvon Martin had died, and Zimmerman killed him, and they did their best to make it all super racial. You had a major news network who like edited a 911 call and stuff, and Obama said stuff like, if I had a son, he'd be like Trayvon, which I'm like, no, you're the president of the United States. If you had a son, he would not be like Trayvon. What are you talking about? Like, my dad's not the president. my dad is a pastor. He doesn't have a son like Trayvon. What does that mean? But they rally around all these emotions during these times as a whole for these communities. And progressive Jews, they've been along in those areas as well. Everybody is like the big social justice warrior, but now they're seeing that people don't have that energy for them. People don't have that energy for them at all, in the least bit. People march with Bubba Wallace over a loop in his garage that was just like a pool, and they're like, somebody trying to lynch him or something. And even after that was all like a hoax or whatever, they did there's some kind of special where they're like honoring him, or maybe there's like a docuseries or something. He was talking about that situation. He's like, I'll never forget the people who wouldn't stand with me or something. I'm like, but it wasn't true. It didn't always seem dumb to me. And I if I was in that situation, I think I would have been like, bruh, this seems kind of dumb. Like, are you sure? Are you sure? And they sent like FBI agents and stuff to investigate it, and it was a big thing. But they had such compassion for him. They had such compassion for Jussie Smollett, and that was obviously a hoax. And when I say obviously, it was obviously a hoax. It was obviously a hoax the whole time. The whole time it was obviously a hoax. And people had such compassion in those circumstances, but they don't have the same energy at all for the Jewish community, and it has people kind of stunned and railing and very confused. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and play this video, and again, it's long, and then I'm gonna play a response video that someone had after they watched this video, which I thought this was a good video, but I also thought the response was quite good as well.
This is not scripted, which I feel like if I start writing what I'm feeling, I may never stop. So I decided to talk a little bit about what some people may not understand about what your Jewish friends are experiencing. So imagine if there was a massacre of an ethnic group or a religious group, the equivalent of 50,000 Americans. And imagine if what happened after that was that all over the world, there were marches of tens of thousands of people calling for further massacre of those people. I can't imagine it. It's unimaginable. And that's what it feels like right now as a Jewish person, that no matter your politics, no matter what you understand or don't understand about politics, no matter if you know the history of the establishment of the State of Israel, no matter if you know the history of the Jewish experience for thousands of years, including the history before Islam, there has not been an experience in my lifetime that has prepared me for this. I have heard from many people my whole life that anti-Semitism is growing, that the Holocaust, while we say we will never forget, many have forgotten, and the swiftness with which the global population has seized upon the massacre of Jewish civilians living inside of a border, the swiftness with which the world has stepped up to redefine terrorism, to redefine statehood, to redefine the right of a people to exist. Nothing has prepared me or any of us for this. I've long said that there are certain people for whom it doesn't matter that I have supported a Palestinian state, that I have spoken out against injustice, persecution, and suffering of the Palestinian people. And when I would tell people that it didn't matter, they would look at me like, you're paranoid. You're just paranoid. Well, I think that I was right. And I think that many of us are now seeing that there are certain people for whom it does not matter if you are left-wing or right-wing. It does not matter if you support the right of Israel to exist or if you've never been there. It doesn't matter if you look Jewish or if you don't. It doesn't matter if your family is from Eastern Europe or if they are from Northern Africa. It doesn't matter, because it is clear, we get it. It is clear that there is a strain of anti-Semitism that is alive and well. It is thriving at my alma mater, where the chant, "We want a Jewish genocide," was echoed in the quad in front of Royce Hall. The place where I took my doctoral hood had students of all backgrounds chanting for a Jewish genocide. This is not acceptable. It's not normal. We should not normalize it. There is no excuse for calling for a genocide of an entire people. Period. Full stop. I have an 18-year-old who is preparing to go to college next year. many of the colleges on his list and the list of all of his friends are for universities that cannot find a way to unanimously, undeniably, irrevocably denounce any organization that celebrates the massacre of Jewish people. Many universities cannot figure out how to unequivocally state that organizations that incite violence and hatred by calling for an end to the Jewish people are not welcome to receive funding from the government of that university. This is astounding. Homes very close to mine are being threatened because of mezuzahs on the door. Jewish stars are being painted on Jewish homes all over the world. Is this the moment that anti-Zionists have been waiting for? The moment when the entire world bans against the Jewish people? I'm no longer afraid to draw comparisons to the global attempt at an elimination of the Jewish people, which my grandparents escaped Eastern Europe to flee. I'm grateful to those who have been able to see clearly, and I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in many institutions I have always held sacred. And the lack of humanity is devastating. The notion that this is a comeuppance for the Jewish people, that's what you get. What did you think decolonialism would look like? I did not think it looked like decapitated babies and disemboweled humans and raped women being paraded around the streets while thousands cheer. And I didn't think it looked like tens of thousands of people marching in solidarity with the actions of a terrorist organization whose sole purpose is to eliminate not the Jewish state, but the Jewish people. My family in Israel has commented that they feel insulated in Israel in a way that they see we are not in America. It's true. I've always believed that Israel was my homeland, and now I understand it more deeply than ever before. I am a stranger in a strange land here. And it took October 7th for so many of us to see that. I'm scared to send my child to school events right now. I'm scared to think about what he will meet when he goes to college. I'm scared that he has to think twice before writing an essay about how significant it is to be a liberal Jew in America. And all of the things that we have fought for the dignity of other groups, for self-determination, for the right to live. Am chofshi be'artzenu, a free nation in our land. I won't apologize for expressing what I'm going through, what so many of us are going through. We are looking for moments of joy. I'm looking for distraction. But it feels like a nightmare that we cannot wake up from right now. For those of you who support the Jewish people, for those of you who support decency and compassion and love and the hope of peace, thank you. Thank you.
So, pretty powerful, raw emotions and thoughts there. Yeah, it's got to be rough. It's got to be rough. And as I mentioned before I played the video, different incidents that happened, things that were hoaxes and weren't even real. There was such compassion. There was the denouncement of evil and racism and homophobia and things that weren't even real. And there's beheaded babies and raped women and the most egregious things, and people are won't even say that they condemn Hamas because they believe they are just legitimately resisting. And as she said, oh, they got their up and comings, like this is what you get. And they're expecting them to just cease fire and let it go, as opposed to saying we have a right to exist and we're going to make sure that you don't wipe us off the face of the map any chance that you can get. So I saw this response last night to this video, and um I I thought it was pretty interesting. So this is from Dr. Sheila Nazarian, and she is, I suppose, I'm not too familiar with her, but I suppose she's more on the conservative side.
Good morning, everyone. I just finished watching Mayim Bialik's recent post about how she sees things, and it took October 7th for her to see things. And I'm just so, I don't know. I don't understand why it has taken so long for people to see what a lot of us have been screaming for the last 4 years. Especially, and I hate to say it, especially the progressive Jews in America. You thought marching with these leftist organizations meant that you were one of them and that they supported you. You failed to read the charter of Black Lives Matter that had anti-Semitism written in it from the beginning. You failed to notice the anti-Semitism at the women's marches by Linda Sarsour on stage, one of the people on the board of the Women's March. You failed to listen. You failed to see. And what, now you see? Now you're awake? You're disappointed in the world? I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed that it had to take a massacre of the Jewish people for your eyes to be opened. A lot of us that escaped socialist countries have been smelling the same smells here in America for years, and we've been trying to tell you. Why didn't you listen? Oh, they're just conservative voices. They're weird. They're don't make sense. They're this, they're that. They're conspiracy theorists. I want you to ask yourself why it took a massacre of our people for you to listen. Maybe it's time you listen to voices again that are different than your own, just like we listen to you. Do not discount the voices of people who have a different life experience than you and who, yes, might know more than you. Growing up in your privileged, using your own word, in your privileged American safe spaces, never actually having experienced war yourselves, never having actually experienced anti-Semitism yourselves, and just turning a blind eye to what exists in so many places in the world. Because what, you wanted to fit in? Because what, you thought it made you a good person, it felt good? You need to wake up. You need to call out anti-Semitism. You need to call out Islamic extremism. For those of us that have lived in Iran or places like Iran and have actually suffered under these extremist ideologies, you cannot fix a problem if you don't make the correct diagnosis. We must make the correct diagnosis. We must listen to each other. We must be united. So I'm sorry that you're just waking up. I'm sorry that you're devastated. I'm sorry that you're disappointed. We've been feeling that way for years. Welcome to the club.
Jeez. So, I think she's not wrong. There's a lot of leftist Jews who have whiplash. And there's some who are just doubling down. There's some particular folks on TikTok and other places who are, I'm a Jew, I still have white privilege, and just, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Um, Back to the point of feeling like a stranger in a strange land. I, I don't understand how people can be anti-Zionist, I guess, after events like this. Because, and I've heard the phrase anti-Zionist scum, and people have used that and just saying it as a big slur, but it's a movement of these people who of believing that they should have their own nation in their homeland. Like, that's what it is. And I don't know, people can believe different things or to whatever extreme, but that's the blanket sort of definition of the movement. So if you're in the US and you're seeing all this stuff go down around you, and all this anti-Semitism is just exploding, and you see people celebrating the violence that has happened against Israelis, yeah, you kind of start to feel like a stranger in a strange land. And I love our country, and I feel terrible that people who have been here still can't feel like this is a safe home for them. I that's terrible. That's terrible. Um but the more people celebrate the stuff from all over the world, why wouldn't they feel like it's more important than ever for Israel to exist? So I think you're not, from my observation, or at least how I think I would feel, I guess how I do feel, I'm just like, yeah, how can you say being an anti-Zionist? How you can say being a Zionist is a bad thing at this point? It just kind of seems like a point of survival, because people from around the world still felt like they needed a homeland because they didn't feel that they were safe in other places. So they only feel like they can be safe. I don't know if there is a place in the world where they can really be safe, as long as people have their minds that they should be killed. But I get it. I absolutely get it. Um, See, the president of the ADL, who's so into leftist stuff and leftist causes, has also had been making some comments as of late, and is just went on MSNBC. I played the clip a few weeks ago, um, just trashing the coverage at MSNBC that were so like anti-Israel. But they're realizing that the anti-Semitism that they've pointed out, very vigorously, when they see it on the right, they have to open their eyes and are like, oh, it's on the left.
About what's going to happen to us right here in this country.
Jonathan, you and I spoke for a special that we did last year on growing anti-Semitism in America, and you described the extremism on the right as like a hurricane or a tornado, and some kind of event that happens very quickly and you can see it. And the anti-Semitism on the left, more like climate change, which is slow and growing. How would you describe it now? And do you think that this is a left-right issue at this point?
Look, it's clear that the hardened anti-Zionists are from the far left are the photo inverse of the white supremacists from the far right. And I mean, there is no argument anymore that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I mean, that is as plain as day. And to think that extremism only comes from one side of the spectrum is a joke. So when I used to say that the anti-Semitism from the left, Anna, was like climate change, getting worse and worse, and it could create the conditions in which storms could happen, this is that Category 5 hurricane. When Jewish people are being told to avoid kosher dining halls because other students want to, quote, slit their throat. Yeah. Look, Dana, this is a moment of accountability, not just for universities, which, by the way, are failing the test. This is a moment of accountability for America. No one should think that it is permissible because you don't like policies in the Middle East to threaten violence and incite hate against your Jewish neighbors, your Jewish friends, your Jewish classmates. I have got to say, this is not a moment just for Jews. This is a moment for everyone in America to say, time out. This is totally wrong. And I think, I'm meeting with the Secretary of Education in a few minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm glad what President Biden has said. We're going to hold the administration to account to make sure they're keeping our Jewish kids safe.
Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
So, BLM, for example, I'm so proud of myself for never liking BLM, such vindication. But they've always been like anti-Israel, Patrisse Cullors. I don't have the clip pulled up, but I showed it to you guys before. There's a video that I posted about BLM and the paraglider thing on my YouTube that you can find it. It's like TMZ goes off on BLM, and I show a snippet of Patrisse Cullors too, to kind of just show like the history of like, yes, these people have always been against Israel. She wanted Israel to end, like not just them, the occupation in Gaza, which there is no occupation in Gaza. They're not in there. She wants Israel as it is to end. And that's some sentiments that have been going on for a minute. And they've always had like ideals that were beyond like police brutality. I know a lot of people marched and they just wanted to save all the black men from being terrorized by the police, because that was their life's mission, I guess, to go out and kill black people, which isn't the truth. The data doesn't bear that out. There was a guy from Reuters who was some kind of data analyst, and he just crunched the numbers, and he's like, the stuff that BLM is saying isn't true. And they ended up firing him. Not because what he said wasn't true, but because what they found the truth to be so offensive. So unarmed black men killed by police is like 20 a year. But people, I keep this graphic. Let me just pull it up really quick. There was a giant narrative that just wasn't true. But the more liberal you are, the more wrong you tend to be about the gun deaths. So this is for 2019. So the real number was like about 20, but there's people who thought the number was as high as 10,000. Now, if you thought 10,000 people were being hunted and killed by police every year or something, and they were unarmed, that's really alarming. Like, it's always, tragic when life is lost anyway, but there's a difference between your mind being warped when you think the number is like 10,000 or even thousands or hundreds versus like the number being like less than 20. So people were hyped up for supporting that movement, but the movement was not only pushing those particular warped views, but they also wanted to destroy Western values. They're trained Marxists. They don't like capitalism. They want to get rid of the nuclear family. They really, really promote LGBT stuff, because tearing down the family they see is a good way of tearing down Western civilization and all that stuff too. Like, they wanted to get rid of cisgender privilege and all that kind of different stuff. And I was trying to sound the alarm bells, but people were too busy posting black squares in their profiles and not paying attention. So those same people who, they expected you to march and throw your fist up in the air and all that stuff, they're posting paragliders and saying we stand with Palestine. And people are understandably hurt by it. And I can just say, I hope you wake up. I'm glad if you're waking up. And for those of you who are still asleep, um, what is wrong with you? But there are people who've been trying to sound the alarm for a long time. Before I let you go, I want to play this clip from Thomas Sowell. He was asked once, "What do the Jews have um, to not be hated so much?" And I think there's truth to this. I really think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying here.
Where does the hatred for the Jews come from in history?
Number of places, but they are people who have succeeded an awful lot in the midst of other people who have not. Years ago, one official of one of the Jewish organizations in New York asked me, "Well, what can Jews themselves do in order to minimize the hostility they face?" I gave him a one-word answer: fail. Because as long as you succeed, you're going to be hated.
So the source is success.
It's not only the success, it's the success starting in poverty, as the Jews did in the United States and in many other countries. And so you not only see them succeed, you see them rise up from the bottom, past other people, and people they've passed don't like it. But there's also the fact that the role they play economically has never been understood. They're middlemen or they're money lenders. And the argument is they really aren't producing anything. You can't see anything tangible that they don't stand at a production line turning out widgets. And so the argument is that they're not producing anything. They're simply gratuitously inserting themselves between the producer and the consumer, and they're parasites, essentially. And this argument has been made, again, not only by the Jews, but by similar groups around the world. And in a number of places, they have expelled those people or forced them out by mob actions, forced them to flee. And after they left, the economy has collapsed. But it never teaches the lesson that, no, they were doing something.
So, the wise Thomas Sowell. What can they do? Fail. But people do hate when you mention people who rise up. If you say like stuff like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, people hate when you say stuff like that. People hate it so much. The idea that you can be the master of your own destiny, or people will be so obsessed with like, slavery and in the United States or other places. Well, people seem to be slavery happened all over the world, but people are particularly obsessed with the what happened in America. It's like that. Well, there other people were enslaved, like the Jews were enslaved, and people don't want to hear stuff like that. They just want to hear about their own struggle. And if you do have some kind of success, people will often resent you for it because we are a society that likes to view the world through the oppressed and the oppressor, and that's how people are choosing to view the situation in Gaza, and they're choosing to see Israel as the oppressor because they're the ones with the bigger guns and all kinds of stuff. By the way, when they took that land, when they agreed to it, like when the when they wanted, when they were gave the plan for like the Palestinians to have different areas and the Israelis to have particular areas. The land that the Jews accepted like was not great. And into this thriving society and with their ingenuity. And there was these great greenhouses and stuff that they left in Gaza, when they like left out, and all that stuff, was destroyed. So people really resent success, man. I saw a video today that I'm gonna have to reply to. It was like, if this is unrelated to Jews, but it's just in general. But someone's like, if you think that 70% is too high for an income tax for the rich, just know that it used to be 92%. And I'm like, just because you're broke doesn't make you immune to evil, right? Like that's called covetousness. And just because someone has more than you doesn't mean that they deserve it less. They deserve less, or you deserve to take more. If someone came up to you and had a gun pointed at you and said, "I want everything that you have," you would think that that's wrong, but they want it. You have more than them, allegedly, so they want it. they take it with the threat of the gun. That's what you want the government to do, because they're the ones who are like the threat of the gun, but it's legally because it's the government, and you want them to confiscate income disproportionately from people who obviously have more than you do, but someone will always have more than you do, and you will always have more than someone else. So this ethic of someone has more, therefore we should take more from them is immoral. And it doesn't matter if you're poor or in poverty or, middle class or whatever. If you are operating your life out of jealousy, that's really disgusting. And you don't get a pass just because you're broke. The root of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say that you have to have it. The love of money is the root of all evil. So you can have two nickels to rub together and be guilty of that sin. So I hope more folks wake up. Linda Sorsor with the women's rights, with the women's rights movement or whatever march. She was obviously anti-Semitic. We got people in Congress who are anti-Semitic. It's not new. But maybe hopefully more people can see. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blackteens.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blackteens.com/donate. It does cost to stream, it costs to run my website, all that stuff. So if you guys can support in that way, I do very much appreciate you. Check out different merch at my website, as well as different books and stuff that I have available. So like my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You guys can get paperback, or you guys can get it on Kindle. I have 2 nonfiction books, and the rest are fiction books. So if you want, I don't know, something a little thrilling for tonight, I do have, lots of things that you guys can choose from. My book, They're Almost Alive, Becoming Undone. That's a good series for such an occasion tonight. So I already explained what it was at the top of the hour, so I won't go into it, but you guys can if you go to blacktnews.com and go to the merchandise page, there's a banner that will take you to my book website, which is ninjadustpublishing.com, and you guys can learn more about my books. And I think I still have it pulled up, so I guess I'll show you the site again. But you guys can learn about my stuff there. You can just search my name, Christina Elbar, on Amazon. Follow me on Amazon and find plenty of my stuff there. So this is a page about the Almost Alive series. But I have, again, 17 books altogether. Again, if you guys are going to be at Motor City Comic Con, which is in Novi, Michigan, it's November the 10th through the 12th. I will be there. So if you guys are interested in that at all, maybe you're going, maybe you're thinking about going, I will be there. So I hope you guys come by my booth and get a signed book. So oh, thank you. I see some people saying they're buying merch, and I'm seeing people enjoyed the episode and stuff. So thank you guys for watching. But by the way, I know I was late today and I was late yesterday. I'll try not to be late so everybody knows, because I'm assuming not everybody's getting notifications when I come on live, and I don't know if this topic is something that people are starting to throttle interest in or whatever. But just make sure that if you're subscribed, I don't know what you can do on Facebook about it, but if you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you hit the notification bell, and make sure that you let people know, if they're interested in this kind of content. You can suggest them to me, or suggest me to them rather. Anyway, enjoy your night, guys, and be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.